Hello, everyone. This is Phil Johnson, and joining me today is Sherry Welsh of SherryWelsh.com. Sherry's a leadership coach who works with professionals, both individuals privately, and she also works with groups within companies. Sherry recently published her first book just a few months ago, titled Slowing Down: Unexpected Ways to Thrive as a Female Leader. And you can pick up a copy from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or other book retailers. Sherry's a certified professional coach, and she did her training with the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, which teaches energy leadership. And that is our topic for today, energy leadership. Sherry, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Phil, for having me.
Sherry, why don't you just go ahead and give us a little bit of a definition of energy leadership?
Well, when I first understood the energy leadership theme, I was excited about hearing the word energy because I am a big fan of Albert Einstein. And, something he said many, many years ago was that energy can't be created or destroyed. It just changes from one form to another. And with that, what I came to learn by working and being trained by IPEC to get certified in coaching was that, we are all energy, and energy is all around us, and we're just shifting from one form to another in our interactions with others, in our thoughts that we have about ourselves. And when I first understood that and then have worked with it for the past 5 years with clients and on my own personal development, it's made all the difference in the world in how I show up and how I'm engaging more effectively with others, both, personally and professionally.
So if I understand what you're saying, I'm always in a certain state of energy. I'm interacting with people in a certain state of energy. Is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yeah. So as we, as human beings, right, we're vibrating balls of energy, and there's certain people you'll come in contact with that when you meet them, they kind of suck the life out of you. They drag you down. You feel drained after you leave them. And then there's other people that when you first meet them, you're like, oh my God, I love being around this person. They're so much fun. They're so uplifting. I always feel good after I leave them. That's what's meant by the different forms of energy that we're constantly moving to the different levels. And with energy leadership, there's 7 levels, which we'll talk about, I know, in a bit. But there's 2 distinct forms that we basically move between in our human experience, in our day-to-day living, and in our interactions with others.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about those 2 different forms?
Yeah, so there are 2 types of energy that I mentioned we go between. One is called catabolic, which is draining, exhausting, contracting energy. And the other is called anabolic, which is building, nurturing, uplifting, and inspiring energy. So basically, we're constantly fluctuating between the 2, depending on what's going on in our minds, in the interaction with the other person or the situation or the event. And it all comes from what we're believing or thinking about that situation or event that has us come from a place of anabolic energy or catabolic energy as we interact with it or a person.
Okay. Let me just clarify a little bit. You mentioned 7 levels, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not just catabolic or just anabolic. Can I be somewhere in between?
Right. Great question. So there's the 2 forms, the types of energy that we fluctuate between are a mixture of catabolic and anabolic. And that mixture is the 7 levels are a part of that are just 7 distinct phases of types of energy within the catabolic anabolic range. That once you understand the 7 levels, and they translate to 7 levels of leadership, and as I work with the 7 levels for myself and with clients, what happens is they really start to understand the times that they're in catabolic energy, the times that they're in more anabolic energy, and the mix in between, and how to get more awareness around, oh, I get it. I'm in this catabolic place right now. It doesn't feel very good. What do I want to do about it? And they can start to move into a more productive space, hence the anabolic, and get done what they want to get done, take action the way they want to take it, create what they want to create. So the 7 levels are 7 distinct phases within the 2 types of energy.
That's great. And I'm glad you mentioned clients there. I wonder, can you frame energy leadership a little bit in the context of your coaching practice? How do you use this with your clients?
Yeah. So when I first start to work with a client that I'm just getting to know, and we're working privately one-on-one, and also with companies, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But when I first work with individuals privately, there's an assessment that IPEC has created many years ago, and I've done hundreds of them now with clients over the past 5 years. And the assessment measures the current level of energy, the current leadership potential that person has based on how they're seeing themselves and the world around them. So it's measuring a bit their levels of consciousness, which the 7 levels of energy are all about, the level of consciousness a person has. And so what we do is we get a feel for what is their energetic makeup. And we go through that in detail, so we take time to explain the 7 levels, and we take time to talk about how it shows up for them in their world. And what I listen for as the coach is, what beliefs are they having, what thoughts are they having that are limiting them, that are holding them back and having them stay stuck in their catabolic energy range. And so we can start working on that to free up and question those thoughts and beliefs so that they can shift into their more anabolic range, which we all have, by the way, right? So we all have these 7 levels. We all have these 2 types of energy fluctuating at all times. Mm-hmm. And how I spend time with the client is to really help them get some awareness around the 7 levels and understand the terminology and use that terminology in our coaching sessions to quickly get the awareness. Oh yeah, this is my level 1 energy, my victim energy. Or, oh yeah, that's my level 5 energy, my partner energy. Yeah, okay, I get that. And they start to see for themselves how useful it is as a tool for their own awareness all the time throughout the day with whoever they're interacting with. And in our coaching sessions, it's much more efficient and effective because all we have to do is talk in levels when something's coming up, and they immediately understand it and know what's going on and how to move it into a more productive space.
Great. I'm thinking while you're talking about that our language is kind of full of expressions that indicate energy. We might say somebody gives me bad vibes. Mm-hmm. This energy leadership is taking that fact that we're interacting with one another with different types and different levels of energy and giving it a much more specific, much more concrete language that then becomes a really useful tool that you can use in your coaching sessions. Am I getting this right?
You got it. That's exactly it. And it is, language is so powerful. And just words can move you out of a more creative, energetic space, where you're uplifted and you're inspired and you're excited about an idea. And you hear someone say something and it pulls you down into a more defensive space, which is catabolic energy, which is fighter energy. And so just words can trigger different ways of being. So it's important when we have then this understanding of the 7 levels that it quickly takes them back to that particular place or feeling or area, so they know, okay, yeah, that's right, that's my fighter energy kicking in, and it makes it lighter. It makes it more I'm just being human because I want to fight and defend what I believe in, right? That's natural, that's normal. The idea is, though, when people become more aware of when they're in their fighter mode, that they want to prove they're right, And they can kind of laugh at themselves. Oh, here I go. I'm going back to my fighter energy, which after understanding the 7 levels, they know that's not the most effective way to be in the world. That's not, people don't want to hang around people that are fighting all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not enjoyable. And we're here in this earth to enjoy life, and enjoy the work we do, enjoy the people we're with, enjoy everything that this beautiful world has to offer. So in our coaching sessions and the work I do with clients, which is what I love about this so much, is it's helping them see that, okay, yeah, I go to fight. I get it. I'm understanding why I'm fighting because it's important to me and I want to defend my position on this or my thoughts about it. But I'm also seeing that, okay, I don't need to stay here. I don't need to keep digging in my heels and fight to the death, right? It makes it more, okay, relaxed with, okay, yeah, I made my point. Now I can move on and see, all right, where do we want to go with this now that I made my point? And where do I want to go from here? So it opens up their own awareness of how they're being with that situation or that person in the moment.
So it sounds like along with the awareness and the recognition, you're also teaching how to shift out of one state to another. How to move toward a more anabolic, you would say, state of energy.
Exactly. Yeah, and the reason for that is that, as I said, it doesn't feel good to be around people that are in a catabolic state all the time. It's very draining and exhausting. And the reason for that, it's something that, I learned in studying this energy leadership as well as energy from Albert Einstein perspective, that energy entrains, right? And entrainment, it came from a Dutch physicist back in the 1600s. And it's like pendulums in a clock shop of all the grandfather clocks. They all swing in sync, in rhythm. And that's what we're all doing in life. And so we're all being kind of coming into sync with whoever we're around. So when we're surrounded by people who are very draining and exhausting and fighting and toxic and complaining and negative and miserable, whatever words you want to use, they're going to pull us down into that space if we allow them. So our natural entrainment from our biological side is going to come and hang out in that space with them while they're down there. But as I work with clients and they get more awareness of these 7 levels and the different types, catabolic, anabolic, and how to learn the skills that we do. And it's in my book a bit with a couple of the skills identified. And we'll talk more about that, I know, in future podcasts. But that's the idea, is the learning the skills to help shift out of those more negative catabolic states so that you don't have to stay in that place with them. And you're helping them to move out of it as well. So it's helping you not to stay down there with them, but it's also helping them to move up into a more productive way of being.
Right.
And so it's a win-win scenario in that case, which is a level 5 partner energy, by the way. I know I'm jumping ahead.
Well, that's good. So it has both personal and interpersonal value and application then.
Yeah, exactly. It's really, first and foremost, you got to put the oxygen mask on you, right, before helping others. So our first responsibility, and that's something that comes up all the time with clients and companies, is accountability. Personal accountability and accountability for your job and your position in the company. It's really taking personal responsibility for me to show up my best self, for me to be an inspiring contributor to this interaction. And the way I do that for myself first is to get my thoughts around, okay, what would be a stance that I want to come from here? Do I want to come from an anabolic place, or do I want to come from a more catabolic place?
Right.
And obviously, there's no right or wrong answer, because there's places where catabolic energy can be useful. We can talk about that in a minute. But the idea is that you take personal responsibility, and there's the tools and skills that I work with clients on helps you use that for yourself, and that's what I've learned, and I practice each and every day. So I'm not an expert by any means, but what I've learned is how to integrate this energy leadership into my life so that I can take responsibility for how I'm showing up.
Yeah.
And then I can help others shift into a more productive state as their coach or even as their friend, as a parent for my son, so there's different ways that I can help others also in my life, which makes it then, as you say, interpersonal.
Right. Sherry, one last question for today. We're almost out of time. You coach, as we mentioned in the introduction, both individuals privately and also groups within companies. So you're dealing with people in your coaching practice, both related to their professional and their personal lives. How does the energy leadership apply differently, say, at home versus at the office?
Yeah, it's a great question. And when I work with people in my coaching business, when I'm working with someone privately who has brought me in as their coach into their life, and we're working on their career potentially, or their relationships at home, or their role as a parent with their child, it could be in any of those areas. What tends to happen with all my clients is that whatever they first engage me in as their coach to work with them on, it covers everything in the end. Everything's intertwined. So there is no personal professional life difference in my understanding and the way that I'm living and the way I see in my clients. They all get intertwined. What people tend to believe, and again, that's a belief that they've created, is that they have to be different at the office than they can be at home, or vice versa. And so what I help them see with the work we do together in energy leadership is you're one individual human being who's having an experience here in this lifetime. And you can choose to show up any way you want in any situation with anyone, professionally or personally. And that's always in your power to choose that. And when you understand the 7 levels, you can apply them personally and professionally anytime the same way. It's again a personal choice on, okay, where do I want to come from to have this conversation with my spouse? Do I want to come from my fighter mode, or do I want to come from a more partner mode, right? So a level 2 or a level 5. You can have that same question for yourself when you're walking into a meeting with your boss. Where do I want to come from? Do I want to come from a fighter mode where I defend my position and justify what I've done, which is a level 3 mode? Or do I want to come from a really open mind, a level 6, where I don't have any prejudgment? I'm really curious to hear what my boss wants to tell me right now, right? So you can do any of those scenarios personally or professionally. There's no difference. It's just, who do you want to be in this moment?
Yeah.
And that authentic connection is something you can have all the time, no matter in the office or at home.
Wow, that presents a very inviting picture of somebody being able to have that level of awareness of their energy and how they're interacting with people. Yeah, it's a really broad application to it.
Yeah, it's ownership, right, at its truest form. And the beautiful part is, once you have this understanding of the energy leadership and the 7 levels and how it integrates into your life and all aspects of your life, you can never unlearn it. That's the best part. So it's a skill for life. It's an awareness for life that you can never forget, basically, because it just is true and it makes sense, and it keeps increasing the awareness instead of forgetting how to do it, right? So that's the most fun part about it.
Great. Well, I think that's a good conclusion. I think this podcast gives a really good introduction to energy leadership and how you use it in your coaching. I hope everybody will tune back in, because we're going to be getting into the 7 levels of energy. And I think that will be really good as well. Sherry, thanks a lot for joining us today.
Thank you, Phil. It was great. Thank you.